Thank you so much for joining with me in this class today, in the One Consciousness class. It is an online healing class. We are using the chapters given us really by Acropolis Books. This is going to be the fifth one, so it's coming from the Heart of Mysticism, Volume 6, and it is chapter 4, I think. It was chapter, I didn't write it down, chapter 7, I think. All right, so you were able to prepare this by reading and by contemplating what it said, and we're going to continue doing that, so diving deeper into what actually is given. And so I'm really happy that you join with me in this, because where two or more are gathered in my name, Jesus says, and I will be there. So there's a communication going on in this instant already. So the only way to enjoy that is to relax and say, open yourself up to receive that. And that's an essential part of this class. So to relax, like we're not attaining any goals, or we don't want results, or we don't want this or that. Like, no, this is just a matter of relaxing into the present moment and receiving what's been given in this moment. And that can be a lot, because this chapter was packed full of gifts, so to speak. And so now and then I have to allow somebody to enter into the classroom. That's why I click. So there are lots of things being given in this chapter. It was a long chapter, so it was also not so easy to just read through it, so to speak. So I got stuck in a couple of essentials, like a couple of basics that I encountered, and stayed with that for a moment. So today in this class, I want to work with that, what has been given. And it starts basically with the idea of problem. Like, what do you do when you encounter a problem? And so I wrote down some questions that will be answered in this video, and answered just basically still on the superficial level, because you can dive deeper into it. Like, it becomes any object that you're going to study is basically an invitation for a revelation. So we can use anything for that. So I just pick out the idea of problem. And so the questions that I'm going to pass is this here: the problem-solution relationship. For instance, what do you do when you meet a problem? What do you do when you meet a problem? Let me see, admit. I still have to let some people in. Okay, Carly and Christina, welcome to you. So what do you do when you meet a problem? And the problem is mostly the problem is mostly a habit, like a habit not to let go of certain ideas. And so we will come to that too, because that's really very helpful to take a look at. And as soon as I bring that in, you will understand what I mean. So what can be your only problem? Basically, what can be your only problem? So all the answers are given in the text. And one last question is, what is a miracle? Because Joel really describes it here, what that is. See, and then basically, then that all comes together. And it comes together in the idea of, if you encounter a problem, if you encounter a problem, what do you do? Like, there's all the material that we will use up today. Like, what do you see as a problem? That's basically so in order to encounter a problem, you must have defined the problem as such and such. And there exactly is where the crux already is. Like, we meet problems. We have in the daytime, we walk up to problems, and what do you do? Try to solve them, try to fix them, or not? Or are you going to stand still and let something else occur to you? So these things we're going to take a deeper look at. And I will start with reading something from the chapter, just as an introduction to where we will be going. Okay, so if you allow your mind to be the instrument of your soul, then when a problem confronts you, instead of battling or working against it, you will remember, first of all, that where the Spirit of the Lord is, there's freedom. And in that assurance, you are able to drop the problem, thereby finding yourself receptive and responsive to the Word of God. Your mind then becomes an instrument through which you can hear the still small voice, or at least listen to it, and your attitude is one of receptivity, a recognition that the only problem you now have is to achieve a sense of God presence. So this is what Joel describes as like a first response to the problem. And this is okay. So are you following what I'm saying? Is this your experience of how you meet the problem during the day? Or if you have some kind of symptom of an illness coming up, is this your first response? And I think that is probably not that way. It could be, but it not necessarily has to be that way. Because what Joel describes here is actually a very mature response. Like it comes with a certain experience. You are if you are familiar with experiencing the presence of God, then this would be your answer. So how does it, like, what steps do you need to take to get to that point is then a very interesting idea. How do you get to that you attain a certain experience of the presence of God? Then you can approach your problems in a totally different way. So that's why I want to take a look at that, because this is so essential. Like the temptation to keep fixing your problems, or the temptation to even look in a way that you can perceive problems, is what is laying before that. You will have to take a look at, how am I perceiving this? With what eyes am I looking? Like, am I looking with Christ's vision, or do I have certain habits, or do I have certain ways of dealing with practical problems during the day that I actually missed the point completely? That could very well be. So one of the things that I wrote down too was this. It's like, what do you do when you meet a problem? So think about that. What do you do when you meet a problem? So today there was a certain problem, or maybe yesterday there was a certain problem. And what did you do with that? What was your first response? Like, did you really want to take it on and try to work it out and fix it? Or did you make a connection? Like, did you stop and taking it as a sign that you have to wait for a moment to let the solution come to you, in terms of, hey, this cannot be the problem that is really there. It must be, it can be resolved by me recognizing that I'm in communication, for instance. So here we are, like in the practical daily, day-to-day experience of ourselves, we encounter a lot of problems. We think we have to make a lot of decisions too. So let's start over with, how did you start your day today? Did you sit still and meditate and really experience, say, communication? That would be a wonderful start of the day. So if you encounter certain problems during the day, what did you do today with that? Like, when I opened a newspaper on my news app, I did read this and this, and it was really shaking me up. Like, it really touched me what I read, or this or that. Like you have a certain experience with all the information that is coming to you. So here, see, I see them too, and in the perception of it, it is hard to discover how you're actually looking, like because it's mostly very habitual the way that you look. You know, it's like you get used to certain things, and you are used to looking in a certain way. So that's why I want to go a little bit deeper into that today. So then it is, in order to perceive a problem, you must have an idea of a problem. Otherwise, you couldn't be seeing them. Like if you look with Christ vision, you will look right through your appearances and forgive what you see, and see basically this essence behind all of it. So that is not like 100% score for anyone here probably, because it is with your human mind you you have all the opportunities to fall into a temptation to see something as real, whether it is a bodily symptom, whether it is a relationship problem, or whether it is a financial or whatever problem, or a world problem. So here we go. So I found some habitual ideas that is good to be aware of. Like, oh, am I still thinking that? I can't believe it. Yes, I do. So here we are. Some of them are here. So, for instance, this one, to think, for instance, that the world is a fearful place. That can be really like a problem. You can perceive the world like that, like this world is dangerous. It is a very fearful place. So always something can happen to you. So that the world is a dangerous place, that you are basically in danger and that you need to defend yourself. That's also a very natural response to the circumstances and surroundings that you see, that you can see. So, but this is like the habit that you grew up with. Or what do you think of this one? That you think that you are in lack. Are you deeply aware that you can think like that, and that might be a thought that is arising in you, that you think like, yes, I'm in lack. I need to really work in order to prevent myself from going down into a hole financially or something. So one other habit can be thinking that Christ is far from you, thinking that in order for you to come into an experience of the love of God or Christ's mind, that would be like an incredible journey, and maybe at the end you get it or not. So that can also be a real obstacle or a habitual thinking. And here one more, and then I will stop, because there's always more. There's always more. So, oh yeah, any physical symptom is a threat to you. It can be a threat to you. It can be a habitual idea that as soon as you have a physical symptom, that could be a threat to you. So this is all habitual thinking so far, and this is like, okay, I don't want to mention many more. That's not necessary either. But it's good to be aware that it's good that you become aware that you are thinking like that, because that's a real obstacle, to come in touch with the love of God. To think that Christ is far away from you, or you read that it's in you, but you don't feel it, and thinking that will be an incredible journey to get there. Like, no, that is all not so. Only you have to realize that all the ideas that you hold as a habit too, is an self-created obstacle. Like your mind is all powerful, so it will prevent yourself from having an experience of the love of God. So that's why it's so good to become aware of it, even though it's like, well, what do I do now? Because the world is full of danger. It's like, no, the world is not full of danger. It is just the idea that you hold about it. So let yourself be surprised in a different way. And by coming in touch with who you really are, by coming in touch with communication with God, with everything that is. And so that's easy for me to say, but like I said, we have to take all the steps along the way to get to the point where that becomes easier to realize. So one step was to become aware of the habits, that your habitual thinking that is actually preventing you from having a full-blown experience of the love of God. So you will have to sit with this and take a look at what you're thinking, and it's like, okay, what do I lose by letting go of all of this? Nothing. You have to come to the conclusion, no, I have nothing to lose, because if there's an all-powerful God, an omnipresent God, then I'm in good hands. I can learn to trust that. I can step by step give more to that God, and in order for me to let the solution come to me. I don't need to solve my own problems, because the problems have no ground, basically. They are not real. They are not personal problems. It is a personal thinking that is just a bit off, but it can be corrected. So Joel says this too, basically in the first paragraph that I was reading. It's like as soon as you meet a problem, you come to the point where you sit back and come in contact with what is real by first maybe bringing one of the lines that you learned by heart that really are affecting you, to repeat those in your mind, and then relax back into, okay, I'm going to be receptive and see what comes to me in this. But first of all, I will let go of my version of what the problem is. See, that is the most important part. Your version of what the problem is never what it is. So, and then one important step before that is to realize, like, I have to admit that I don't want to hold on to the idea that I'm right. That I don't want to hold on to the idea that I'm right, that my habits are not habits, but that's the reality of where I live in. Like, you will have to let go of that habit to be right. And that's quite something. So you literally have to get over your own self, like yourself, your human self. You have to get over the ideas of what you take as real and as safe and as dangerous and all of that. So I realize that this is quite a step to undertake. And you're on the path for some time, so you're familiar with these ideas, but still it can be a real temptation, a real challenge to go through all of this all the time, because basically there's no exception to it either. So whether you perceive a problem as how you think it is, or you see it dissolve in the recognition that it has no power and that it is made up by yourself, and that you don't want to hold on to it any longer. So that is one way to come in touch with the kingdom within. So basically anything that is not the kingdom of God is worth letting go of, because you don't need it. So that's quite expanded, isn't it? All right, thank you so much. I'm going to read some more. So the next part, we were talking about letting go. Here we go. The way to the solution of a problem, or to the solution itself, takes place when your thought is not fastened upon it. The solution of the problem does not always unfold in the same way. Sometimes the problem dissolves without leaving a trace of it, and you are not aware of when it happens or why or how. At other times, you are given a specific answer as to when and what must or must not be done. So I love this. This is greatly described by Joel. That's wonderful. So this is about letting go, like letting the problem be solved. And the problem doesn't need to be solved in the way that you think it is. No, the problem needs to be solved. Like if you solve a problem, it's just not there anymore. It disappeared. So if you come into a recognition of the communication with everything that is, with your true essence, what problem could you possibly have? So it will dissolve. Like the thing that you think is the obstacle or the thing that you think is really bugging you will just dissolve. So this is one of the ways that Joel says the problem can disappear. And sometimes you get instructions about what to do or not to do. So that's really great too. It's like imagine that you really get the instruction to do something that you could never come up with. Like you could never come up with a solution that would be the best for everyone involved. So as soon as you see that happen, and that's so great. Like if you see that is happening and see that it's the best for everyone, you immediately get the personal confirmation that it's not coming from you, but that it's bringing literally communication and communion with your brother. Like you will get a different outcome of that. You can really feel that something is lifted. So that's how you recognize that the problem has been solved by you just saying what you had to share, like by you following the instructions that you got. And then the solution is so sweet in that sense. It's so sweet because it dissolves boundaries, it dissolves conflict, it dissolves everything. It's like, oh my God, I could not have come up with a solution like that. But this is really the best for everyone. I had no idea. So are you familiar with that? And that is so great. You know, that's so great that it works like that. Okay, so see, there's so much stuff in this. I only took like 5 paragraphs out of the whole chapter, and it probably had 40 paragraphs. I don't know, but it was a lot. Okay, here we go. This is more like connected to the response to a problem. This is somewhat like becoming a vacuum, except that inwardly you are more awake and alert than ever before. In that stillness and quietness, that absence of everything that you have acknowledged as power, the Christ can come to you. So here it is, like that absence of everything you have acknowledged as power, like the letting go of the ideas of the habits of thinking that it is a certain way. In that stillness and quietness, the Christ can come to you. Sometimes it comes very gently and peacefully, and sometimes it thunders, startling you. But when it speaks, the problems, personal, community, national, international, are resolved, and physical, mental, moral, and financial freedom is attained, not by might, not by power, but by the grace of God. Okay, so I'll read further. The attainment to be sought is spiritual grace. The way of that attainment is non-resistance within. That is no mental resistance. Realize that where the Spirit of the Lord is, there is freedom. In His presence is fullness of life, and His grace is your sufficiency. Such realization enables you to release yourself from the struggle. It frees your mind from its merry-go-round, even if it is but for 2 or 3 seconds, so that you can devote yourself to attaining the realization of God's presence, the Spirit of the Lord. And when it comes upon you, flooding you with that inner grace or sense of release, you will find that in some perfectly normal, natural way, the outer problem is solved. See, and that almost sounds too good to be true, but you'll have to experiment with it in order to experience it. So that's so great about this. It's like this is so practical because you can literally apply it today. You don't have to wait until the situation comes or something. No, you can, for anything that you see as a problem, you can use it for that, and so you change. So when when you read your newspaper, or when you do this or that, when you are in a family situation, or when you feel like a physical problem, like that still will be the same response. So for you, the only assignment then is to go within and make connection with what is there, what is communicating always directly in you. So by your letting go of the habit of thinking that the world is a certain way, or that you are a certain way, or that the Christ is a certain way, all of that can go now. You don't need it any longer. So that's so wonderful. So thank you so much for joining with me in this. And so there's so much healing going on in this, because you can apply this, and it's like, oh, this is really exciting, because it will bring you something that you didn't experience before, or maybe you had some experiences before, but then you know how useful it is, and that you want more of it. You want to say. Have this in all your problem solution adventures. That's wonderful. Let me see if we have still a question left over. So what can be your only problem? So that is given to you in many different ways. Like, what can be your only problem? Jill describes it here too. It's like the attainment of direct communication can be your only problem, because this what we do is not about the problem solving. It is not about say fixing your financial situation, or fixing your relationships, or fixing your the world situation. It is basically not for that. So the only thing is then literally to come into communication with what really is. So that will take care of all of it, because that is your release of your identity, the release of what you think you are, and the release of what you think your world is. So Joel describes it in this way. I just read it, but it's great stuff. The infinite way reveals that there. Oh yeah, this is another part. The infinite way reveals that there are no miracles to be demonstrated, such as health, supply, home, employment, or stilling of storms, but rather there's only one miracle: the demonstration of God. When the awareness of the presence of God has been attained, the harmonies of God's grace flow like a river. So there's only one miracle: the demonstration of God. So there's only one solution. That's the demonstration of God. That will take care of it for you. And see, and that makes this all really simple. And that makes also the problem solving really simple. So the first instruction is then to let go of what you think the problem is, and make a connection with like the true communication that is with you all the time. So that sounds really simple, doesn't it? So we come into that. It's like we are going to meditate now to become quiet and really come in touch with that what is real about ourselves, and to relax and to really receive what has been given. So I picked one of the meditations that are on the EVF website. I used it before, but it's such a great one. And this is My Peace. So if you allow me, I will read this to you, and we will have some quiet time in which we can let this all affect us and dive deep into your experience of communication. My peace. If you admit me and abide in me, and let me abide in you, then I am your safety, your security, your peace, your meat, wine and water. My peace I give unto you, not as the world giveth, give I unto you. Where does this my peace come from, except from me? And how would it come from me if I were not in you? I in thee, and thou in me. As you abide in this conscious realization that I abide in you, you abide in me, and we are one. Then all that I, God, am becomes your experience. All that I have becomes yours. All my peace becomes your peace. My kingdom is not of this world. My kingdom, the kingdom of the I that I am. My kingdom, the Christ kingdom, the spiritual kingdom, is not of this world. My thoughts are not your thoughts, neither are your ways my ways. My peace I give unto you because I am within you, and you are within me, for we are one. So, and now we will just be quiet for a moment. Yeah, thank you. So, the name of this chapter that we were actually working with is Spiritual Freedom, July Spiritual Freedom. So the idea of spiritual freedom then becomes easy to understand, so to speak, because when you let go of the habits and you're no longer enslaved by your fixed world vision, so to speak, then immediately something else happens. Like it doesn't make a lot of sense for me to define it or say like, yeah, it's so wonderful, you should try it. No, that's not what it is. So it's like there's so many things that you don't have to do. All your concerns about your body, your world, your financial situation, you name it, all the all of that. Um, Imagine that you can release that by handing it over and coming in touch with the true experience of your being. Then that will become your spiritual freedom. That will become your experience of freedom. And that is a very individual experience where you feel completely connected. So that is immediately there. Like it's immediately there. It's not something that you have to do in that sense. It is all the things that it's like it's happening by itself as you let go of all your concerns. So whether you call it freedom or whether you call it love or whether you call it peace, like in this in this meditation that we did. This is my peace. Like whether you call it my peace or freedom, it really doesn't matter. It's like it's all the same stuff. It is realization. It is you being you with a capital Y. So that is the offering for today. Like that is it is for you. This is what we offer to one another in order to experience deeper ourselves. So thank you so much for being part of that and that you take time to do this with me today, and or when you're watching this. So thank you so much for that. So next week there will be another chapter. You can find that on the EWEAP website. I present, say, this class on the website, and there will also be the download for the next week. So thank you so much for being present here, and hope to see you soon.